Hey YouTube, thank you for stopping by my channel, The Magical Solution. My name is Leilani. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a loyal subscriber, thank you so much for sticking with me, and I hope you continue to do so. So I have this Mexican music in the back. Apparently my neighbors are partying really, really hard. So cool, I got a soundtrack. That's awesome. So today's topic is actually going to be a story about how I met my Madama. So I posted this story up in a Facebook group a while ago, like almost a year ago, and I cannot seem to retrieve it out of that group. Like, I can still get to it, but I can't seem to pull it out from the group because I guess the group is private, and I guess there's like some locks on Facebook that won't allow me to pull it out. But it kind of works out anyway because that particular video was really skippy because it was like a Facebook Live. So I figured, you know what, let me just retell it because a lot of people were interested in this story. So they were doing a lot of threads on Facebook about Las Madamas, which is basically a group of slave spirits, right? And at the time when these threads that I was seeing in all these different groups were coming up, because, you know, these Facebook groups, there's like trends that happen where like all of a sudden one spirit is like a huge thing, or one kind of work is like a huge thing for like a month, and then something else happens, right? So she was like the trend for a while, and I didn't know too much about her. And I was so grateful for these groups because I had met her a long, long time ago and didn't even know it until I went into these groups and started seeing, you know, pictures of her, and I mean, it was just an amazing situation. So I'll come back to that. So let me just kind of give you a little bit of a backstory, okay? So from the age of about 17 to my early 20s, I had these really strange bruises on my legs. And what I mean by strange is, I mean, they looked like someone took a bat and just had at it at my legs. They were black and blue, disgusting. In the summertime, they would get really, really bright red, and in the wintertime, they would get purplish, bluish black. And, you know, from 17 all the way through most of college, I couldn't wear shorts, I couldn't wear skirts, I couldn't wear bathing suits. I was afraid to go to pool parties. I was afraid to be seen. It really messed up my self-esteem. I mean, it got to the point where I even had a hard time being, you know, intimate with people, and it affected my social life as well. And I went to tons of doctors. Like, I went to dermatologists, rheumatologists, immune doctors, all kinds of doctors. I was put on all kinds of medication, and nothing helped. These bruises did not go away, and I didn't know what they were. All right, whatever. So by the time I got to my 20s, I was already fed up with it. I just was like, screw this. Apparently this is going to be what it is. I'm just going to have to live with it. And I didn't think anything else of it, right? So I'm in my 20s. I'm living in my apartment by myself. And for about a week and a half, I was doing very, very intense meditations on the elements, because I had kind of lost touch with my elements. I was a little out of whack, a little out of balance with my elements, and I needed to get back in tune with them. So I was doing very intense meditations every day, after work, before work, just whenever I had a moment. That's what I was doing. And what ended up happening was, every time I got to the element of fire, I would get this name whispered to me. And I didn't know what the name was, but it sounded very, very familiar. It sounded very similar to the Sanskrit name, the Hindu name for the god of fire. And so that's what I thought it was. I just figured, my brain is just doing some sort of mispronunciation of that name, so I'll live with it. So about a week and a half of this, you know, I didn't think anything of it, and the same thing kept happening. Whatever. So about a week and a half of this, I'm about to go to bed. Now, mind you, before I get into what is about to go down, the apartment that I had lived in was haunted for sure. I had spirits all up and down that apartment, and but they didn't bother me. They didn't mess up my work. They didn't really affect anything. I eventually found out what that whole situation was, and you know what? I should do a ghost storytelling video at some later point. But I just want to kind of throw that out there, just to let you know that I definitely know the distinction between the experience I had with my madama and the experiences that I had with ghosts in that apartment. That they're definitely two separate experiences. So just a heads up. Okay, so that particular night, I had gone to bed, and around, you know what, I can't even say an hour, because this happened in my early 20s, and I'm in my 30s now. I don't know if I should be admitting that to you, but I'm in my 30s now, so this happened in my early 20s, so I'm not quite sure what time it was in the middle of the night, but I know it was in the middle of the night, and I'm in between that wake and sleep state, and all of a sudden, my room transforms, and I'm no longer in my room anymore. I'm in this other place, okay? And what it looked like was like a really old-time cabin. Now, the weird part is that I'm still in my bed. And I can see my bed, and I know I'm in my bed, but the room itself is not my room. It's a cabin. I'm in like a living quarters kind of thing. And when you look at the front of my bed, to the left side, up against the wall, there's a fireplace. And it's lit and it's on, and in front of the fireplace is a round table. And at this round table, I see a woman who looks just like this. You know, the old raggedy dress with the apron, you know, some scarves, a head wrap. And across from her, I see 3 men. And they're all laughing and having a great old time. And she's, you know, she's playing her cards, she's shuffling them, and she's dealing them. So I assume, you know, they're playing some kind of a poker game or some kind of a bet game going on, because they're all just cracking up, they're laughing. She's got a cigar in her hand, she's smoking. And I'm watching this from my bed, and I'm going, what is going on? Like, what is happening right now? But I'm trying my best to stay calm, because I notice that whenever I have these sort of lucid astral dreams or visitations, if I panic or if I get anxious or nervous or if I become too aware of what's happening, it goes away, it fades. So I tried my best to stay super calm, and I'm just watching this, and I'm like, oh my God, right? So she's dealing, she's laughing, that big old belly laugh, and as she's doing this, all of a sudden, you can see her catch me from the corner of her eye, and she slightly turns her head to see what she's looking at, and she sees me, and we lock eyes, and for that moment, the whole room disappears. Like the table, the 3 men, the cabin, everything disappears, and the only thing that's left is my bed, the fireplace in the background, and her. And now she's standing at the foot of my bed, and I'm looking at her like, oh snap, right? And so she leans over and looks at me very intently, and as she's looking at me, I can vaguely see fire, like actual flames in the pupil of her eye. And the minute I lock eyes on that little flame, what she does is she grabs both of my feet, like with the palm of her hand, like here, the soles of my feet. She presses it up against the soles of my feet and kind of wraps her hand around my feet. And she does that with both of my feet. And the minute she grabs my hand, she lets out this laugh that, like, at first you think it's really diabolical, but it's not. It's just a really hefty laugh. So, and when she does that and she begins to laugh, all of a sudden, I feel this, like, electric fire shoot up from my feet, all the way up, out the top of my head. And it was such an electric heat that it like jarred me awake, like it just woke me up, and I was like, oh my God, and I couldn't believe what had happened, and I looked around, and my room was back to normal, and everything was dark, and I'm like, what, and so I got up, I went to the bathroom, I rinsed my face, and I just like took a breath, and I took a drink of water, and I just said to myself, whatever that was, it was definitely a visitation. Like, I knew it was not a dream. I knew that the characters in that dream were not figments of my imagination. I knew that they were very, very, very real, and that I was almost involved in some kind of a memory, or some kind of timeline thing where I was transported from one scenario to another, but it was in the same time. I don't know. All I know was that spirit that touched me was a real spirit. It was something that was not a figment of my imagination. So, I calmed myself down. I was breathing, and I said, okay, then I just go back to sleep. So the next morning I wake up, I do my typical morning routine. I'm getting ready for work, and as I'm getting dressed, I look down at my legs, and all of my bruises were gone. All of them. I actually took the day off of work that day. I stayed home and contemplated that whole thing and meditated on that whole thing and cried for a while. Because you guys, you have no idea how devastating those bruises were and how much they affected my life. And I didn't know who she was. I didn't know how to look for her. I mean, what am I going to write? A big black woman with, raggedy clothes on that laughs really big and smokes a cigar. Like, what was I supposed to look for, And it didn't dawn on me that the element of fire and the name I was being given that whole week prior, and then the fact that she had fire in her eyes and she healed me with like a fiery kind of electric healing touch, I didn't seem to put those two things together at all. It seemed like two different events to me. And it was really just a sad situation. Like, I spent a few years just trying to contact her again, trying to meditate, trying to dream about her again, trying just something so I can at least say thank you, And it wasn't until I got into those Facebook groups that people started posting pictures of like, Aunt Jemima and the Madamas and like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's her. Oh my God, that's her, And I remember looking at the threads in those Facebook groups, and I just remember crying because it was the first time that I was like, yes. Like, now I have a name, I have a face, I have a way of communicating with her and getting the right statues and the right things to give her offerings, and I have a proper way of saying thank you now, and that meant more to me than anything in this whole wide world. So just to give you a little bit about her, again, I had mentioned Las Madamas. She is, there's more than one of her, that she's a group of slave spirits. And, but here's some new things that I found out, because I had gotten a reading from a Babalao not too long ago, and one of the things that I found out about her is that as of recently, I'm not saying this is changing her history at all, okay, so don't get it twisted, but as of recently, people have been seeing her in different manifestations other than the typical, like that Aunt Jemima look, they've been seeing her as very strong female archetypes, people like Joan of Arc, people like Queen Boudica, just strong female archetypes, she's been manifesting as for them. Cool. For me, she shows up exactly the traditional way that she shows up to the majority of people that work with her. But just kind of throwing that out there. Also, the Las Madamas are spirits that you don't just start working with. They're not spirits that you just can pick up and put down whenever you feel like it. These are spirits that they come to you. They choose you. And the reason why is because these madamas, they actually come to their bloodline. They come to their descendants. So you actually have to be related to one of them for you to work with them. Or at least this is what I've been educated on. This is what I've been told from initiates who work with her. And now that's not to say that you can't venerate her. You know, just like the Orishas, you know, you can venerate the Orishas, you can venerate Las Madamas, and you can venerate spirits that come from different traditions that aren't your own, that you do not have to be initiated. And sure, you know, you can put candles out for them, give them offerings, pray to them. Sure, there's no problem with that. But to actually work with them, to utilize them in your work, to get blessings from them, to use them in your magic and in your ritual, you either have to be initiated, or in this particular case, she has to come to you and let you know that she wants to work with you. There's really no in between with that. So just kind of making that clear, putting that out there as well. She loves cigars. She loves playing cards. She's just such a beautiful spirit. Like, after telling the story, like, now I'm reliving all of it in my head, so I'm sorry if I'm being a little ADD right now, but it's just one of those things that just moves my heart to a whole different place, and it gets me really, really choked up. So I think I'm just going to leave it at that. If you guys have any questions about Las Madamas, or if you want to know some good resources to research her, feel free to contact me, email me, themagicalsolution@gmail.com. Or go to my Facebook page. If you have a story that you want to share about your Madamas and how she came to you, I would love to hear a response video, because I'm absolutely obsessed with her now, more than ever, especially now that I get a chance to say thank you to her and to work with her more intensely and more intimately. I would love that. So please feel free to do that. So once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope to hear from you guys. And I'll be doing 2 other videos in the near future, because I've been getting a lot of requests on those particular topics. So stay tuned for them. And also, I'm doing a free giveaway on my Facebook page, The Magical Solution. So tune in on that. There's some rules on how you can go about obtaining the free gift. So check that out, and good luck. I hope to hear from you guys soon. Bye.